Whenever you set sail on Sea of Thieves, there's no telling where you will end up. Even with the best laid out plans, sometimes they must be altered. I want you to keep that in mind as we embark on today's journey. In the story today, I had decided I wanted to try out the most dangerous voyage that Sea of Thieves has to offer. And you might be thinking to yourself, what makes this voyage so dangerous? Well, you see my friend, this voyage has you digging up multiple explosive powder kegs, and even sometimes mega kegs. And we all know that bringing these things onto your ship can be quite a scary prospect. One well-aimed shot is all that is needed to make those bad boys explode and send you to a watery grave. So naturally, I decided I wanted to stack these voyages, but I didn't want to go at it alone. So I invited my good friends Dom and Mahu to join me. We quickly looted the outpost for anything useful, and then we set sails towards the first fort. After arriving, we quickly got to work digging up the explosive cargo, and then we decided to bring along the kegs that were scattered around the fort as well. We then slapped down another voyage, and then we headed towards the next fort. Now, there's no real safe place on a ship to store these bad boys, but the best place to put them would be on the bowsprit. At least there, if anything goes wrong, it would minimize the damage. So obviously, I decided to move the kegs while we were still moving, which went well.
What happened? No. Come on, man.
Yeah, that was rather unfortunate. Luckily though, both Dom and Mahu had survived the explosion, and they were patching the ship up, and giving me a bit of a hard time for my embarrassing display. Eventually, we arrived at the next fort and we began to stack the kegs once again. While we were doing this, Dom had spotted a Reaper on the map. Before we left the outpost, we had elected to raise an emissary, and if the Reapers managed to reach level 5, they would be able to see us on the map. This is when the plan changed a bit. Instead of selling the kegs, they were gonna become a weapon. The idea was actually quite simple. Stack a bunch of kegs on the front of the ship, ram into the enemy, and blow the kegs up in order to deal massive damage. Things are never that simple, are they? At this point, we still had multiple voyages on board to complete. I mean, if you're going to do something like this, then you better go all out, right? So we decided to continue stacking the kegs. We quickly headed towards our next destination, and we continued to gather more. And as we finished the last voyage we had on board, is when something rather interesting popped up. Well, here we go, boys. It was a Fort of Fortune. You see, in Season 9, Rare had introduced a new chest into the Sea of Thieves, and the only way to get it is by completing a Fort of Fortune. Now, because this chest is so rare, everyone wants it, and naturally, so did we. So we headed towards the fort, but with so many kegs on board, we couldn't simply just sail up to it and expect everything to go well. So we decided to hide out on an island that was near the fort, but hidden from any onlookers. Then we began to move our vast collection of kegs onto the rowboat, which took a long time. So you see, the idea was that we would wait for another ship to come finish the fort for us. Then we would row over with a rowboat and detonate the kegs on board the ship, hopefully sinking them without much of a fight. We waited for a bit, but it seemed like the rest of the server had the same idea that we did. Wait for someone else to do the dirty work. And because my friends and I are extremely impatient goblin men, we decided to change the plan once again. The new plan consisted of us sailing towards the fort and dropping the rowboat off at dawn before we aggroed the fort's cannons. He would then row the boat close to the island and wait for any incoming ships so we could easily keg them. But as it turns out, Sea of Thieves had other plans. While on our way towards the fort, we hear a sound we didn't want to hear.
Oh no.
Both a skeleton ship and a megalodon were spawning on us. This was bad. I quickly jumped on the cannon and then I was met with another surprise. Why is there firework in this fucking thing? God damn it, Mahu. After firing off the firework, I began to lay into the sloop. My aim stayed true, and we were actually handling the sloop quite well. I thought to myself, it will be fine. Just keep firing. It will be fine. And that is when the unthinkable happened. No, 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 no!
We killed it.
Well, at least we one-shot it, right? We quickly patched our ship up and we sent Dom over to the fort in order to start clearing it out, while Mahu and I gathered up the loot from the off-kilter encounter. While we were clearing the fort, we noticed that the Reapers were hanging out with another sloop. We figured they were performing some kind of alliance to take us on, and before long, they set sail towards us. So my friends and I jumped back onto our ship and we prepared for war. We lowered the sail and we rowed out to meet them head on. Right out to meet them. For glory and death! As we approached each other, it was quiet, almost calm, but then all hell broke loose. We fired upon them, laying into them with our cannons. They retaliated with what they could, but they were outmatched. After disabling one of them, Dom jumped over to secure the sink, while Mahu and I continued the assault. And before long, they were sunk. Now it was a one-on-one. They were much more cautious now, keeping their distance. I mean, I couldn't blame them, but we had speed on our side, so they couldn't get away.
I got a ladder, blanketed them. Well, I killed one jumped off. I killed both of them.
Dominic on board, the deal was sealed. Mahu and I circled around them, laying into them with cannon fire, and just like that, the alliance was defeated. We quickly gathered up their supplies and we headed back to the fort. Unfortunately, Mahu had to go do something, so it was only Dom and I left on the ship. It wasn't a big deal though. The forts in Season 9 had been nerfed hard, so Dom and I managed to clear it rather quickly. But it seems like the universe had other plans, because you see, Dominic had to also go do something, leaving me all by myself. I scanned the horizon and I saw nothing, so I decided to open the vault and begin to grab treasure. But as I was moving my loot, I spotted a sloop approaching me with white sails and a default hull. It was most likely a server hopper, looking for a Fort of Fortune to steal. I'll be honest, I panicked a little bit. I quickly jumped back onto my ship and I got her moving rather awkwardly, bumping into the nearby rocks. The most important loot I had to grab were the chest of fortune and legends, and rather fortunately, I managed to grab them with my harpoon. But the sloop was now on me. They tried to shoot over and try to board me, but I managed to avoid them. Now, I'll be honest, I'm not proud of myself for running away, but what other choice did I have? Perhaps if I was on a sloop, I could fight back, but right now, I was soloing a brig. I adjusted the sails into the wind, and I started to pull away. The brig is the fastest ship on the seas, and as long as I kept my sails in the wind, they wouldn't be able to catch me. I sailed past Golden Sands and I heard them shoot off onto it, probably thinking I jumped off with a chest, but I continued on. For the moment, I had managed to bamboozle them. And as I was approaching Sanctuary Outpost, I spotted another sloop. As it turns out, it was my friends from earlier that we had sunk, so I couldn't sell my treasure there. Though I changed course towards Daggertooth. With the winds in my sails, I was zooming, and before long, I had arrived at Daggertooth. I quickly sold the chest of fortune, and that is when Mahu returned. And that was actually a good thing, because the server's hoppers had managed to catch up with me now. With the most valuable treasure sold and a crewmate back, we took up the fight. Mahu and I fired upon them, and they fired back. We seemed evenly matched, and as we were drawing close to each other, one of them tried boarding us, but I knocked them off with a blunderbomb. But they weren't done yet. They managed to pull ahead of us, and they took out Mahu, and as we crashed into each other, one of them jumped onto our ship and lowered our anchor. With multiple holes in our ship, 2 crew members down, and a boarder on board, things were looking rather bleak. But in our most desperate hour is when Dom returned.
Shit, he's dead. Can we go to them?
Rather silly, our enemies had anchored themselves directly in our broadside. I wasted no time in firing upon them, while Mahu was mending our ship. Dom tried boarding them, but they caught him on the ladder, killing him instantly. I continued to exchange cannon fire with the sloop, and suddenly they fired over to us. But I kept a vigilant eye on the ladder, not letting them on board. While the boarder and I were having our little battle, my friends continued to slam into the sloop, eventually sinking her. With their ship down, it was only a matter of mopping them up. Skirl, dude!
He's got a good shot, man. He's coming to your ship. Coming to your ship.
She's on board.
Griffin's dead as well.
Griffin's one tap. He's on the ladder.
Yep.
He's one hit though.
He's dead.
Is that everyone?
After the fight, we headed back to the fort for the rest of the loot, and on our way there, Mahu received a rather salty message. Oh well, haters gonna hate, right? After securing the loot on board, we headed towards Golden Sand and we sold everything. And that is pretty much where our story ends today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed my little tale today. If you did, you know what to do. As always, this has been your friend Nobelnaga, signing off.